Welcome to Startup TV Boston. My name is Michael McCarthy.
Vinod Parmeshwar, and today we have Daniel Plummer and Osama Mehboob.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Startup TV Boston was started a few years ago in service to some of my students in the entrepreneurship and innovation class at Harvard. After the semester ended and everyone's startup had been completed, some of the students wanted to continue, but they didn't have anywhere to continue, so I started this television show to support them so that they could get their pitches taped, show them to venture capitalists, and have an opportunity to raise funding. So at this point, I would like to introduce my co-host, Vinod. Vinod, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're here?
Right. Vinod Parmeshwar, and I have been involved in both the for-profit and not-for-profit sector for some time, and I help a number of aspiring social entrepreneurs through around 4 to 5 different accelerators in the Boston and surrounding areas, and that is one of the ways I feel I can give back in terms of helping provide some kind of inputs that will allow other socially change agents to be able to realize more of their potential. And one of the accelerators I work with is the Hult Prize, which is a very good and impactful accelerator that has been in operation for around 5 years now. And the winners get close to $1 million every year. And the important piece is the access to inputs and people that they get while they are going through the accelerator. And that's how I came to meet both Daniel and Osama.
Thank you.
Yes.
Excellent. So you are finalists for the Hult Prize.
We are.
How many finalists are in the Hult Prize this year?
So there are 8 teams currently, and 3 of them are wild cards team. So out of these 3, like one would be selected after a couple of weeks. So there will eventually be 6 teams and going to the United Nations this year for their idea, and one of them will definitely be getting a $1 million.
Are you going to be one of the 6?
Of course.
So you have a 1. So there's a 1 in 6 chance that we're talking to millionaires. Excellent. This is very exciting. Can you share with us what your startup idea is and what the challenge is for the Hult Prize this year? Start with what the challenge is, and then what your idea is.
I'll start with what the challenge is. This year, we are trying to tackle the refugee crisis. The name of the challenge is Reawakening the Human Potential. How can we create sustainable business solutions that will positively impact the lives of 10 million refugees by the year 2022? And so we had an open book of how we want to go about doing that. Our idea just has to be profitable, market-driven, sustainable, scalable, replicable, a lot of great things, disruptive. And so that's the challenge. It's a big one, but a very important one. And then I will let Osama give you the high level of what we're doing to address the challenge. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. So our idea was to tackle with the most important problem for refugees, which is, of course, the cash. So most of the refugees they are living in a very poor conditions, or they might be very good people, but unfortunately they have to live with this, what the misery is. So they might have lack of documentation or no IDs and all that. So we plan to bring the financial inclusion to all these people, help them protect their cash, and if they are going cross country, and instead of going through normal banking system, they would prefer to use a service that's exactly designed for them, which is more utility, which will definitely provide them more utility with less cost.
So basically a bank for the refugee community.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
Can you share with us your pitch?
Yes, sure.
We'd
I'd
love
love
to see it.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. So everyone, we're BILLFOLD, represented today by myself, Danielle Plummer, and Osama Mehboob. And we're a peer-to-peer network unlocking financial inclusion for refugees. So just for a little background on what the United Nations says about this particular issue, they believe that financial services help forcibly displace people, cope with negative shock, reduce exposure to risk, and stimulate economic activity. What we also like about this is that this enables refugees to have a source of independence, utilizing their own resources, particularly their monetary resources. Now we just need to build in some protections around their money when they're in a completely new country. So just to kind of give you an idea of what a possible refugee story is, this is the story of Ruxan. She is an Iraqi, and she is currently a displaced person in Athens, Greece. And so a lot of times people think about refugees as those individuals living in an actual camp with tents, but the statistics say that 60% of refugees are actually living amongst others in a city, in a big city such as Athens. And so Ruxan, her and her family have a small apartment in Athens, and for a living she's currently selling prayer beads, and she's doing pretty well in that, but she also has some issues that she needs to address. So there are many, but I'm going to highlight first barriers. Some of the barriers that our unbanked refugees face are costs to access any type of banking service. So their income might not be enough to access those. And then culturally, a lot of times people who have never had a bank or banked with a formal institution don't really feel comfortable or feel like a bank is accessible to them. So culturally, it's not, the most appropriate option for them. And then any money that they have laying about is at risk of being lost, damaged, or stolen. In Ruxan's case, she has money that ultimately she gives to her husband, and he makes the decisions what happens with that money. And unfortunately, you can think about the wide variety of things that can happen when you don't have your own ability to protect your funds. Perhaps, that money goes to buy alcohol, and she wants to save that money for her kid's future, but she can't. She doesn't have an option to do that. And then finally, legal status. She currently doesn't have a passport or a formal country identification, which creates a new type of barrier should she want to have financial access. So the critical need that we are trying to address at BILLFOLD is how can we give displaced people and refugees a way to be active in the economies for which they live, and how can we provide some form of identification in order for them to access, financial services. So the solution that we're bringing to the table is a peer-to-peer cash exchange platform, which will allow users to remit, retrieve, and transfer cash at any time. And so I will go through the steps of how we do this. So if Ruxan wants to set up an account with BILLFOLD, she can simply log on to our website, and she will be provided with a prompt to create a form of identification, which in this case is biometric fingerprint. And then she will be approved for a digital wallet, and that digital wallet will also come with a secure password. And then from there, let's assume that Ruxan has $100 USD for sake of simplicity that she wants to deposit into her digital wallet. And so BILLFOLD has partnerships with vendors that can help her take her cash and enable her to put it in her digital wallet. And after that point, she's free to transfer any funds that she has to another peer's digital wallet, and that she can also deposit funds at any time in the future, or go back to the vendor and withdraw funds as she chooses. So to talk a little bit about how we do this, we have some critical partnerships to get this off the ground. The first is an organization called Simprints, which would provide BILLFOLD with the technology we need that's secure to be able to capture the fingerprints for people. And in exchange, BILLFOLD provides a revenue to this organization, Simprints. From there, we need a strong partner for our go-to-market strategy to get the word out about the product and to assist us with all our needs in the country that we eventually deploy in. And we've identified Campfire Innovation as a great partner to help us with networking on the ground, accessing all the professionals who will help us from everything with legal, insurance, business structures, so on and so forth. And that kind of helps them even impact their ecosystem of those that they serve, and they serve refugees and displaced people. And finally, the vendor outlets are the individuals that take care of the transactions on behalf of BILLFOLD. And these organizations can be anything from hotels to grocery stores to gas stations. And with gas stations, the beauty of that is that they're open all 24/7, and so that allows people to access their funds whenever they need to. And in exchange for working with us, these vendors receive a commission. Over the next 5 years, we want to basically launch in the country of Greece. And in the first 2 years, that's where we'll stay until we feel that we are able to expand. And that expansion will take place in the country of Turkey. To give you an idea of the market size is the revenue column. There's about $500 million estimated between Greece and Turkey worth of remittances. Our market share of that we believe we can capture is 20%. And the transaction fee that we're looking to charge for the peer-to-peer exchange is 2%. And we project the revenue to be 20 million. And then some of the costs include insurance and regulatory, commissions and salaries, hardware, software, taxes, so on and so forth. And you can see our estimated net profit. Sorry about that. So our team here, we have some names missing, but that's okay. The first individual there is Serbi Loda. She serves as our leader for Team BILLFOLD, and her background is in data science. But in addition to her strong technical ability, because our team is made up of a lot of technocrats who are going to be building this product. She's got experience working in rural India and volunteering with Cisco, helping kids to know their potential futures if they stay on board with their education. There's myself, Danielle Plummer. I have a lot of on-the-ground experience working with social justice projects, ranging from South Africa to Ghana, where I worked at a Liberian refugee camp, and Guatemala. Harsh is our Chief Technology Officer. He also has a lot of startup experience, but this will be his first startup that he would actually be a founder of, which is very exciting for him. So we know that his leadership is very valuable there. And then Usama, who hails from Pakistan and also knows a lot and understands the refugee crisis, being that Afghanis have been in the country for a long time, and he kind of understands that experience and will bring that knowledge to the team. And that's it.
I would want a 24-hour bank, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
It sounds like I might have to move to Greece to get that level of service I'm not getting in the United States. Excellent job.
So that's why we are actually targeting the vendors and gas stations, because they are open 24 hours and they deal with the cash all the time. So this is, we believe that by partnering with them, so we will providing the utility of money transactions 24/7, and especially in the highly cash-based economies in the developing countries, because refugees, they have like hard cash in them. So this is the perfect way to go for them.
So walk me through the transaction. Let's say that I'm in a camp or an urban setting, Athens. I have my smartphone, so I go to your website.
Yeah. So you go to our website, you check the nearest vendor.
Mm-hmm.
You just walk up to they will check with you that, okay, confirm you that you are coming. They know already. So when you come to them, you hand over the cash to these vendors, and we will verify from both parties that this is exact the money that's being transferred by you to the vendor, and after verification, a digital wallet being created, and the money would belong to you now.
So I walk into the gas station.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my account. Here's my $20, whatever my local currency is. Would you put this cash into digital currency on my account? The person at the gas station does that.
Yeah.
And now
Using the thumbprint technology.
Yeah, by the SIM prints.
SIM prints, okay.
And what happens to the cash?
So now the cash is with the vendors, and the way we are approaching is the vendor already has an account with us. So after verification of this money being transferred to vendor, we will debit the vendor's account with that much amount of money. So we will be cleared with the cash. So this cash now belongs to vendor.
So you'll show that the vendor, the gas station person, took a withdrawal out like an ATM.
Yeah,
So effectively, I'm acting kind of like an ATM.
exactly.
Okay, that way there's no double counting of the currency.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what are the currency options? What denominations?
So normally it depends upon the user who's depositing the money, that what kind of currency do they want. It can be in USD or maybe in Bitcoin or Ethereum, like all kind of digital currencies. We are using digital currency because we believe that through this we can help them move money out of the country. But if they are like very skeptical of using digital currencies and they want to use more stable fiat currency like USD or euros, they will have the option with that.
So you're kind of turning their phone into a credit card.
Yeah, it's. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some questions that come to mind with that, and so it would be useful if you can walk us through how you would currently, for example, if I'm moving from one country to another, I have to go to a foreign exchange counter,
Yeah.
exchange the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there are laws depending on the country to what extent and how much currency you can take in or out of the country.
Yeah.
And so the question then is like, for these people, how would you ensure that you are in compliance with what the Greek authorities, the financial authorities, have deemed okay? And it's a country which, because of the debt crisis, has got a lot of controls on the flow of capital.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to ensure that you are in appropriate compliance with the regulatory authorities to ensure success of your product?
Yeah, I want to start by saying, initially when we start out, we want to operate domestically within a country and be able to scale up to the point where we can go cross border. So making sure that we do really well on our core competencies of remitting between peers within the country, obviously getting the permissions and the licenses that would be required in any given country. So take Greece, for instance, and Turkey, whatever the laws that we have to abide with, we will do that. And then in the very near future, hopefully we would have the capacity to do the remitting across borders, and that at that point, those are some of the more trickier technical elements that we're looking into, and we have to explore. But we also love that because it's a great tool to be able to transact across borders.
Well, that brings up another question. So let's say you start in Greece, you've gotten past the Greek authorities, so everything's fine, and then the woman that was selling the prayer beads in your pitch deck, let's say her daughter gave her a ticket to come to Toronto to live. So now she's going to be hopping a plane to Canada. How does she get her money at this point when she's going to Canada? How would you handle that?
So when she got the ticket for Canada, we are assuming that she has already deposited money with us. So when she goes to Canada, she will do the exact same procedure. Like she will check on her phone and meet the nearest vendor and withdraw the money. The same
So-
way that she deposited
So
originally.
then there is an assumption that you will have enough vendors in a lot of different developed countries where the refugees might be headed, because they could be headed to France, Germany, Canada,
Yeah,
some other location.
exactly.
How would you ensure that you have appropriate enough retail coverage of vendors at the receiving end, so that the customers are then able to convert their digital money into cash equivalent of the destination countries?
Yeah, that's where we want to get to eventually, I think. But say, for instance, in the example of going to Toronto, she would withdraw her funds locally in Greece. Say that it was Roxanne's story, and she's fortunate to get asylum. She would go ahead and assuming she deposited euros, she'd go back to one of the local vendors and withdraw her funds. And at that point, she would take cash, probably, maybe. But then after some time, if this scales up and it's very successful and we can be in like multiple countries around the world, would be amazing. Like we like to talk about being Uber for cash, let's see. Then we would have that ability to do that. And she would basically travel cash free, and we'd have vendors in a country like Canada, which is very massive. If it takes off, then she would have that capability. And so that piece with the vendors and being attractive enough to potential businesses is also very important.
Well, one of my thoughts, because the second half of our show, which we're in right now, I told you the show goes fast, right? It's going fast.
Yes.
Now we're into the coaching phase, where we take the challenges that you have and we try to smooth out those speed bumps. And it is true that if you're just going to be starting in Greece and your clients get out of Greece, but you don't have a retail location somewhere else, what do? Yes, taking it in cash in hand would work. However, you lose the client, and then you have the added risk that they could be at risk for having their cash stolen. One of my thoughts is, what if you said to these people, you can take your cash back and go to the airport with cash in hand, but if you want to be safer, your balance is going to stay on your phone. You can open up a banking relationship in Canada, Germany, wherever you want, and we'll just wire the money to you. So now you could, at that point, you could also consider looking at banking relationships with a global bank and saying, hi, we're tapping into a refugee network. When we're bringing them into the banking community already. We would love a global partner that when they move out of the country, they have a sister brother account with your bank, and now they can get real credit services. They can get credit cards and ATMs and the whole thing, and their account could convert into, let's say, an HSBC account, HSBC bank possibly.
I love that idea, Michael.
We like our ideas, don't we? I also like to keep the clients. If there's a lot of loyalty that you would be generating, that if you can bring these people into a banking system when no one else wants them, that when they do get out of the country, you can say, hey, stay with us. We took care of you in the camp. We'll take care of you outside the camp. I'm thinking that your next step might be to look at larger banking relationships that you could partner with.
Yeah, excellent. That's a good idea. I like that
Another thought to consider is thinking about the sustainability of the platform or the vehicle itself. And what I mean specifically by that is there are experiences in other countries where what they have done is they have started off with people remitting money to each other, but they have branched out later to offer savings accounts, interest-bearing savings accounts.
Nice.
Then they have branched out into credit. They have even offered insurance products all through the phone.
Right.
And so the question is, and all of that have involved negotiating with the central bank of the country, because they need to approve the mechanisms, because it's all happening in the form of digital money converted into normal retail money back into digital money multiple times over at extremely faster speeds than what the traditional economy has handled.
Yeah.
And so the question for you then is, if you want to think about making your channel more sustainable, you would need to diversify the amount of products you are putting through it, so that you are providing more value-added services to the refugees in question. So yes, initially they would want to remit money to each other, but they would also want, as their needs evolve, a more sophistication in the kind of products that they need to manage their own complexity. And it could move into any one of these things. Which one you pick and choose will be up to you, but they will be definitely looking for that. So you should already have some kind of a plan A, plan B, plan B, C for moving into that.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think the ones that you mentioned that we've looked the closest at is the credit, some kind of credit history, helping them obtain some kind of credit history based on data, based on where they go. I mean, there's some quirky ones like based on when you enter a new contact, do you put the name only, the first name only, do you put the name and the last name? Stuff like that to kind of get an idea and start studying the data and the trends to see how we could help them build a sense of creditworthiness and history and stuff.
That's great. Do you want to share any other challenges you are currently grappling with that we could help brainstorm with you?
Yes, there are a couple challenges, and one of them is dealing with the regulations, which for now we don't have like this immediate challenge because we will be dealing within the same country. But eventually we have to branch out when the people are maybe moving to a different country to have compliance with different authorities and all that. So we all are being engineers, so we all are fresh graduates, so we don't have much experience of like dealing with regulation and all that, but this is like something that's the biggest challenge for us, and we are looking forward to solve that.
So you need a friendly relationship with the regulators.
Yeah.
The easiest way to do it is, like you were saying earlier, focusing on one country, getting that relationship right, and once you have made that work, that gives the regulators in a nearby country more confidence in the fact that both are in your ability and willingness to work with the local regulator to come up with products that meet the needs of your consumer segment as well as the needs of the regulators in terms of ensuring due diligence and ensuring that there is no money laundering happening, or they are in compliance with international regulations around financing of terrorist activities, stuff like that. So how do you put the appropriate safeguard mechanisms in place? Once you have done that in Greece, then it is easier for you to go to a different country. But in the first thing to do is to get it right in the country where you are piloting.
Yeah.
And one of my thoughts to get that, to get friendly help, would be to create a board, board of advisors, and ask the regulators to be on the board.
Well, okay. You think they'll like that? That would be.
So you get free lunch, right?
Okay.
Michael, will you be on our board?
I would be happy to be on your board, but I'm not a Greek regulator. I think a Greek regulator would probably be your best bet, that now they want to help you. And also think about from the perspective of what's in it for them, what's in it for Greece. If someone from Greece looked at this now, they'd say, okay, you're creating your own little banking system, and then you're going to help people get out of our country, and you're gone, taking your money with us, with them. And there's nothing in it for us. Yes, maybe we're getting rid of people that we didn't really want in the country anyhow, so that would be a benefit there. You're helping with the exodus, but there isn't any profit. One of my thoughts would be, we need a partner bank when these people eventually get out of the refugee camp. Would you be that global partner bank? So could you put us in touch with a Greek bank that has branches in Canada, Germany, or if they don't, what if you copy the Capital One model? Capital One is a virtual bank. What if you went to Greece and said, what if we helped you create a virtual banking opportunity where now there's branches everywhere, that now instead of this being BILLFOLD, it becomes the Federal Bank of Greece, or whatever the name is going to be. You just change the name. Then when they do go to Canada, why not keep the Greek bank account?
Yeah.
And then the Greek government would be getting some of the float here and there. Okay. So if you could find a way for Greece to make some money, Greece would probably be really interested. And if you brought them into the internet age of mobile banking, that would probably get a regulator to help you. And you would be the guinea pig, because the stakes are really low. If there's a mistake, what are the account balances we're looking at?
Right.
$500, $100. So if there is a mistake, it's probably not going to be on billions, and you could get the bugs out. And even if there was a mistake, it's really easy to compensate the account holders by saying, okay, we made a mistake, we deleted the account, here's your $100 back.
Yeah.
So it might be an easy pathway to ramp them into mobile banking.
Okay.
There are two concrete benefits that you could pitch to any person who is a Greek resident or who would be interested. There are two things. One is you are increasing employment in that country. So all the vendors who are part of your retail network will make money. So you are increasing income generation in the country. The second thing is currently all those transactions happen in cash, which is an unaccounted or a black economy. You're bringing all that into the digital economy, which means you're bringing all that into the purview of the formal system, which in itself is a huge service that you would be rendering to the central banks. Central banks want more of the accounted economy as opposed to the informal economy.
Okay.
And so that you are, so they would be actually interested in partnering with you, so that if you are working on something that actually has the potential to go to scale, it actually meets their needs too. The more things are flowing through the formal channels as opposed to the informal ones, the better chance they have of regulating it. Because right now,
Yes.
it's all, you don't know what's happening.
Those are very good points. That you are turning, you're increasing the ability of Greek nationals to make money by turning them into banks. You're turning every gas station into a bank. That's with a 2% commission. So that's certainly a benefit, and it's taxable because they can see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are taking a lot of cash, and now it goes under the taxable microscope. So I think Greece would definitely would probably love that. And those are the two things that Vinod's come up with. What if you got one of these regulators on your board and said, these are the pain points that we're thinking of, what are we missing?
Yeah.
What are other things that we can help you with? And I'm sure they have a long list.
Yes.
So,
What is some other issues you are thinking about?
so that's an interesting point you raised, because that's what we are pitching, that this is like human ATM. So instead of like branch and the ATM machine, it's like we are we are turning humans with small business into like kind of like bank branches and all that. So the other issue is to like build trust, and which we know that the best strategy would be to just words of mouth. If some people go through the whole process and they eventually feel that there's a big utility that we provided to them, and that there was clearly a need of it, then it would definitely be helpful for others. But it's a slow process, and we want to like accelerate these words of mouth to like reach out to as much people in like small amount of time.
Well, if you really want to take the human ATMs to the next level, I have an idea for you.
Yeah, go.
You can do it like an Uber. Let's say you want money right now. You can do an algorithm and ask like literally 7 people near you, do you have the spare cash to give it to this person?
Yeah.
And the person remits it. You don't even go to a store.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
we were actually like working on. I don't know. We actually we were working on to that, but there are like some couple challenges. There are security, that what if people like they rob you of money, but this is definitely an interesting idea.
No, but you will only be able to find out after you have put in your own thing. So the thing is, there is a mechanism, and you can always control it by putting a limit on the amount of money you can ask. So you can only convert as much money as you have in your digital wallet. So even if they physically rob the money, you have the digital money to recompensate the person who physically got robbed.
Well,
There are checks and balances.
Well, let's walk through this one.
Yeah.
So let's say you and I are doing the transaction.
Yeah.
So I have $200 in my phone,
Yeah.
and I need $20 cash to
Yeah.
buy lunch with
Transact,
Danielle.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just need a drink in a bar that doesn't accept credit card.
Yeah.
I need, sure, absolutely. I need $20 to pay my bar tab. So here I am. I have digital currency. The bartender won't take it. I'm trying to buy Danielle some drinks and lunch or whatever. And so I hit my phone. Hi, I'm here and I need $20. And you're a few blocks away.
Yeah.
I have $20 in cash. So we're going to meet.
Yeah.
So we'll
And
figure.
I can give the person the cash. The thing is, how you make money on this is like, because they are trying to convert it, does this person who is giving the money get something for
Yeah.
actually providing the service?
2%.
Or the thing is, you enter into it in a mechanism whereby like you accumulate points or something like that, whereby if I need the money in a pinch, I can cash it in at a later date. And so that you create a virtual currency of like give and take around the system. The question is you have multiple options in terms of how you want to operationalize it.
Yeah.
What I like for an incentive
Yeah.
is if I would be willing to pay you a 2% commission
Yeah.
to give me cash,
Yeah.
that's your incentive to
That's
walk
my
around with
incentive
some
to-
cash. But if we want to put this a little bit on steroids, you know how they have surge pricing with Uber?
Exactly.
What if you did surge transaction commission that, oh, no one's around. I can see on the map there's 7 people that have $20 and he's going to do a 1% transaction fee and you want 10%, but it's snowing out and you're next to me and I can't get to this person at 1%, so you kind of rip me off for 10%. But you could do transaction bidding and the money's right there.
Yeah, you could.
You could.
Yes, we could.
So I really liked with your idea and the reward and point system that Vinod mentioned, because I feel that this when you make money over the interest of maybe 2%, 3%, it works very well in the Western countries. But if you go to like Middle East, it's people are very against because of religion.
Sharia law, you mean?
Yeah, in Islam, people are very against the interest and all that. But if you bring the reward system, that you will get a reward on that. We're not charging you interest. And I could see that it could be scaled in that part of that world.
So rebranding the compensation system, instead of calling it a percentage transaction, you call it something else.
Yeah.
It's like the old system of like, I did you a favor, so I can call it in with somebody else at some other point of time. So it depends how many chits I accumulate.
Yeah.
I call in a favor with you, I call in a favor with you. So I've done 3 turns and I can take all the 3 and cash it in with somebody else.
I do favor banking.
Yeah.
It's actually what I call it. I'll do you a favor, and I don't need anything from you yet. You need something, so I'll deposit into the bank, and then later, maybe a year or 2 later, I need something from Danielle, and I say, Danielle, remember the time I helped you out? Now I need your help. So I call it favor banking. You could do that.
You could do that.
You could do that.
It has got a lot of potential, and particularly because when you're dealing with refugees, even small amounts of money, they can tend to be very sensitive to price. Even if it is a 2% or a 5%, that can be a big amount.
Yeah.
It's much easier for them to say, okay, somebody did me a favor, I will do a favor for that person or some other person later. That's a much easier way to make that thing go around. It might be an easier sell for you instead of saying, hey, you lose 2% or 5% of the currency for the comfort, which is a much easier sell in the Western world. I would give up 5%, 2%.
Yeah.
Because I need the money now. I'm okay with it. But if I put me in like Athens or in some other urban area and I'm a refugee, I would think twice about giving up the 5%. That's a bigger chunk as a proportion of the amount of resources I have. So I need to think more carefully about whether I can afford to give that up, even though there is the convenience of getting it at my house. I would much rather walk 10 minutes and then not, instead of 5, give 2%, or instead of 2, give nothing.
But what kind of favor banking would you do?
So that is the thing. So the question for you is like, again, you're encouraging financial inclusion, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, you have the ability of using that. Let's say, I could even imagine a situation where, depending on the number of chits you collect, you could get discounted rates on a loan you might take. You could link it. You could also use it in a different way to reduce the points you would pay on insurance in terms of the premium rates. There are many different ways you could turn that into effective cash for them at a later stage, but you can only do that if you have actually provided services to others. So you earn it and then you cash it in, but they can only cash it in with the institution, not with each other. So let's say I provided you the money, I make the money, but I can only go back to BILLFOLD and get them, monetize it.
Yeah.
The BILLFOLD points.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So BILLFOLD points, that would be okay with Sharia law?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
I've worked with Sharia law in other countries, so I know how to make it work.
Next challenge. These are fun.
This is
These are fun.
a lot of fun.
Well, we have been so creative in this hall.
So what's the next challenge that you have?
Well, I think you guys spoke a lot to them. I mean, me personally, I was concerned about the optics of, you know, us piloting or launching in Greece, particularly because of their economic situation and how we could fit into, if we could fit into the value stream there. But you both brought up some good points. So we just need to play our cards, right? I love the idea about getting someone on our board from the government. I know there's a way. I feel confident about it. It's a question we might get, and being able to sort of reinforce that, you know, there are options to be able to make a partnership and see how things can blossom. I believe, and it's interesting too, because if we go to Turkey, then a similar economic political situation, and how can we fit into their unique challenges and still offer something that's valuable to them as a company. So those are
2 questions. Why did you choose Greece?
yes. So our partnerships are there. We were successful in gaining some traction there and a lot of support with the NGOs. And so on top of particularly the population that we want to meet, which is urban refugees that have some source of revenue or income, that's how it worked out.
I think you'd have a better shot at winning the $1 million if you had an official from Greece on your board now.
Okay.
It just, the optics are going to look really
Amazing.
good in your deck. That, you know, we're already working with the Federal Reserve of Greece.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
That's pretty big. So how do we do that? Like, who do we call now? I'm thinking there's the World Bank. There would be. Usually I start with who would talk to me. Anyone who is running a bank, I would probably go to the Greek embassy in Boston. Start there. Find out if there are Greek branches, Greek banks in Boston right now. I know there's some in New York. There's probably something in Boston. I haven't seen any with a street presence. There's probably one in a high-rise somewhere. And you could go there, and they're going to think that you're a client. And you could say, hi, I want to start a banking relationship. And they'll talk to you. And you do want to start a banking relationship. And then you tell this to them that, hi, we're going to the United Nations. We're one of 6 people who's going to win $1 million. And this is what we want to do. And when you start dropping United Nations finalist $1 million, you're worth talking to. And you say, you know, we are looking for a country that is going to be on our board. We're looking for a relationship with the equivalent of the Federal Reserve. And we want to start with a bank. And whoever that bank manager is, they're going to probably know who to talk to. But you could say, you know, we are interviewing all the banks in Greece to decide which one we want to partner with. So now you're choosing them, as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
But I would probably go to all the banks in Greece. You know, just the big ones that aren't in trouble. I would make sure that they have a solid balance sheet.
Yeah.
That would probably be a good start, and just see how far you get. I would also call up the World Bank, and you ask for the Greek desk, because it's organized by country, and tell them what you're looking for. And even if you make that phone call, even in your pitch deck, you can legitimately say, we are in conversation and negotiation with the government of Greece to find a representative on our board. And that's true, but I would start making those calls now, because they'll take a while.
Yeah.
It'll take a while to find the right person.
It's also a good idea to try and see if you can meet the UNHCR folks who are responsible there, or if they have a specific team or department working on financial inclusion. That would be a good spot to check. There could be people you could reach out to. There is definitely a financial inclusion team at the Gates Foundation, seeing if they have any interest and or connections about other people who might be interested in being on the board, somebody who has a connection to Greece.
Yeah.
Always helpful.
Yeah.
The Gates Foundation had set up a cohort of or group of central bankers to actually share best practices around regulation in these kind of fast-moving areas like mobile money, etc., to enable financial inclusion, because they saw regulation as a bottleneck. So they already have experience bringing together regulators at a global level to make these things work. So you could potentially learn from that experience and try to see if they are willing to open some doors for you.
That's great.
And if you do 6 degrees of separation, one of your representatives at Hult is Kareem and Johan. You could ask them to send an email to Chuck Kane, who I know everyone met the other day. He was teaching a class, and say, could we get an email to Muhammad Yunus and ask him, how would you do this? I mean,
Yeah.
banker to the poor.
It's fantastic.
He would at least know who to point you in the right direction of. And from what I heard, he is actually accessible.
He is very accessible, and he has been a judge for many years at the main event, the finals in New York. So you can't get advice from him because that is against the rules, because there is a conflict of interest. So you would have to check in with Kareem about what would be the appropriate way to do it.
Wow, that's amazing. Great
It's
idea.
good to have to know, because I get pulled in there. Hey, Mohammed, I need a favor. Why did I get disqualified?
That's what makes us a good team.
It's true.
Yes.
It keeps you out of trouble.
Yes.
That was awesome. That's great advice. Thank
Call
you.
Mohammed's wife.
Okay.
So what other challenges do you have? What else is keeping you up at night?
Well, literally, what's keeping me up all night is building the product. We are working on MVP
Okay.
because we want to visit Greek in
Minimum viable product?
Yeah.
Okay.
So me and other engineers are in the day we work on a business stuff, in the night we code, and we want to get the MVP out and test it when we go to the Greece. But before that, I mean, what I see that this MVP could be tested at any place. I mean, you could test it by the transfer of money between a couple of vendors. Maybe go to this street and you talk to any vendor. I mean, just to test this idea, to see if any bugs are there. Do you think it's a good idea to just go to vendors in the United States before going to Greece?
Well, my first question, and I'd ask you what you think, is it worth their time to invest doing that?
So I would most definitely say yes. And the reason why I say that is that there are things that you cannot anticipate unless you actually are interacting with your clients. And interacting with any client is better than sitting up in your room writing code, coming up with a product, and then realizing, oh, we could have saved ourselves all these troubles if only we had talked to somebody who would have said, oh, that thing absolutely doesn't work for me. Because the success or failure of your product depends on two different diverse segments. One is that it should be easy for the vendor to monetize it, get digital cash, hand over cash to you, and it should be easy for the user. So you need a surrogate for somebody who is either a refugee or has been in that situation in the past, so that they can tell you that based on their experience and how they came. So you can even go to refugee organizations here who have helped resettle, and they can put you in touch with people who have made the transition, but who can tell you based on their experience whether this is going down the right path or not. Because one of the things or common problems with startups is that you invest a lot of time in developing a product, and then you realize that it is, for want of a better word, overbuilt up. That you need a simpler product to actually work, and that's why there is the whole concept of failing forward and fast. And so you are trying to fail as much as you can, but making it really fast so that you can learn from your mistakes. And failing forward means you are not repeating the mistakes and you are fixing the bugs as you go along, as opposed to spending a lot of time cooped up and then trying to come up with kind of closer to perfection product, but which might or might not meet your consumer needs. So definitely test it, definitely pilot it, and more importantly, keep talking to them while you're piloting it. What is it that you really like? What is it that you hate? What is it that doesn't work? And no detail is too small when you are asking for that kind of feedback.
The one thing that pops in my mind is you're probably going to have a language barrier, that the people running the gas stations speak Greek, and the refugees making the deposit probably don't. So I could see the instructions, the whole walkthrough process would need to be pictures otherwise you're going to be having, I know on the vendor side you could do that in Greek, that would be one thing, but on the depositor side, how many languages are you going to be having? You could have a lot of languages. So I'm thinking if you had memes where it was just really clear, because like to Vinod's point, there's going to be something weird where you thought, I never thought about that. Like Simprints, who you're partnering with for the fingerprint technology, when they gave their pitch last year, they were talking about how they were different than others because a lot of the refugees were manual laborers and their fingerprints have been worn off.
Yeah.
That you really can't get a standard ID fingerprint like we would have on our smartphones because they don't have that, the granular detail that we have. And that's something I never thought about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
So similarly, you might find other things that might be a problem. So having worked in situations where with populations with low literacy on financial inclusion products, we had created an extensive series of training manuals completely based on pictures, and we learned a lot through that process.
Wow.
And even for the training, you have to be very careful about what you're introducing. So just to give you an example, like even something as simple in a pictorial sense as a speech bubble. You see that, right? There's a small arrow going like that.
Yeah.
So when we actually piloted that in Mali, one of the poorest countries in the world, people said like, oh, that's the udder of a goat.
The what?
The udders of a goat.
Oh, the udders of a goat.
And so the question is, because they don't have comics with them, and that's when you realize that's the thing that is causing us to use that as a speech bubble. So you might have basic issues about how you're going to through. Might or might not happen in your case. You might have your equivalent of this problem, but that's where you need to think about how to translate your visuals into something that is actually universal and people actually understand what you want them to understand from that symbol.
Exactly. Yeah, that's fascinating.
So you know that your countries are going to be, Greece is your host country. You know, the refugees that you're trying to help in Athens, one you said was from Iraq. What other countries are represented that might be your clients?
We've got Syria, Afghanistan,
Pakistan.
Somalia, a lot of northern African countries, Moroccans. There's a significant amount of economic migrants there as well. So they didn't necessarily because of war or conflict, but economy, they're trying to get out and find a path for themselves and their future. So we've got a lot of the Middle Eastern world and North Africa rim.
So how many countries did you just rattle off? Was that 10?
At least 6 maybe.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Now, let's look at, you know Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule?
Kind of.
The 80% of your money is made from 20% of your clients. So of these countries that you just mentioned, who has the most money that would be able to deposit in your bank? Which country?
As a country, I would say Syria.
Okay. So would it make sense to do, in the beginning, some micro-niching, that it is a Greek banking relationship? That's already set in stone because you've already decided it's in Greece. But what if you rolled it out to Syrians first? So you get the most money, you could get a couple of Syrians, there's plenty of Syrians in Boston who could help you with the cultural side. Let's say you get that going, and then you look for what is the second wealthiest country that could be depositors. So let's say it's Morocco, for example. Then you get some people from Morocco and say, hey, look at this Syrian-Greece banking app. What do you think of it? And when you get to Pakistan and Afghanistan, then you're going to get into the Sharia law thing of, oh, this little 2% thing, we're going to have to turn it into BILLFOLD. So you might be able to keep morphing it around. The other one is, just because you have a short amount of time, about a month before this thing launches, I would love it. I would love to see the app working with a client with money on deposit.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, again, minimal viable product, if it was a Syrian customer with just one gas station in Greece, and you say, hey, look, we already have our first deposit, and here's the feedback.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. That's the goal.
What would be really amazing is if you can actually demonstrate it live, if you can send it during the pitch.
Like a video?
I'm not saying a video, if you can demonstrate it during the pitch live, send it.
That would be fantastic.
Like using two people app or
Absolutely.
live on the
Yeah, we'll shoot
It's
for
what
that
I've
for
advised
sure.
other people too. When they come
I-
up with stuff like apps, I'm like, if you want to win this, you have to make it come to life. Otherwise, it becomes a theoretical concept. It's like, yeah, I like the idea, and but if you are actually able to send, it's like, okay, Judge, here is a phone, here is a phone. And
Yeah.
for this purpose, right now, you are Noor sending money to Mohammed. Send it right now.
I'm gonna be a millionaire if I do this in the pitch session.
He likes to eat fire. Oh, watch. I'm a little more like, oh, look at the pretty bubble. This is it's gonna work just fine. But he's right. If it works, it's a very nice tightrope act.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, well, you know.
Definitely.
There is a point to that.
Go big or go home.
Go big or
You are in America.
Why don't you shoot for it? See how close you get. Try to get the app to work in the U.S. just between you two. So you'll be the gas station owner, you'll be the Syrian, and try it out. Now, have you looked at other apps that you'd like to model, like Capital One or Venmo, PayPal? Are there any apps that you think you could get some best practices from?
Yeah, we definitely have in mind the Venmo, especially because Venmo is like very simple. But I feel that it's gonna be even simpler than Venmo. You just send or receive. There's like 2 buttons, and then it pops up the map. You choose the people, and then you just go for it and transfer the money. And
Yeah.
Excellent. So in the last 2 minutes of our show, I told you it was going to go fast.
it did go fast.
Any final thoughts, questions that we can answer? Or would you like our final question?
Oh, you guys have a final question for
We have
us?
one final
Oh, boy.
One piece of advice. One of the ways to pitch it also could be to say that we are just trying to create Venmo for refugees.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because right now Venmo needs bank and all that stuff, and it's only in
We are
America.
trying to create a better, cheaper, faster Venmo
Do,
for refugees.
do you think it could work? Maybe.
I'm just saying
Well-
it's how you introduce a product to an audience that might not be familiar with what you're trying to do. It's like when people say, I'm trying to Uberize this thing, it has become a verb.
Yeah.
And so, but Uber is not the right analogy in this context. It's Venmo.
Venmo. Okay.
Makes sense?
Take that. Yeah.
So we're going to ask you back on the show after the United Nations and see how you do. What I'd like you to think about is what you would do with $1 million.
Okay.
Just want you to think about it. And would you like to come back on the show in about 4 to 8 weeks so we can see where you are?
Yeah, I would love that.
Fabulous.
Okay. And we always ask our Hult finalists to make a pledge that whether you win or lose, will you continue with this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
We pledge.
Okay.
Thank
You're doing
you.
you're doing it for the refugees
Yes.
and not for the prize, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
And all these people just saw
Thank
you make
you.
that pledge.
Hold you to it.
So next time we are coming to this set, I want Vinod to be here as well.
He will be here, and you guys can buy lunch because we're pretty sure you're going to be the millionaires.
All right.
Well, thank you for being on the show, and Vinod, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank
and
you.
thank you for watching us. Take care.
Sure.
Bye.